Okay, welcome back. So in this lesson, what we're going to do is we're going to launch another EC2 instance, and we're actually going to run some commands to configure our instance as the instance is launching. So I'm going to show you how we do that. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to use something called user data. Now, this here is a script which we're going to run at instance startup. Now, don't worry, if you don't understand any of this, that's fine. You don't need to write any code for this course at all. But this is a script which will run at our instance startup, and what it's going to do is it's going to install a web server for us. Now, by the way, to find this file, what you need to do is, if you haven't already done it, at the end of section 1, the very last lesson of section 1 is the course download lecture, and in there's a link, and if you just click on that link, you can download the course files. So once you've downloaded the course files, you'll be able to find this directory once you've unzipped it, called code and files, and inside that you'll find this file. So the path to this directory is going to be different because you're going to unzip it in your own computer, but you should find the directory code and files, and then you'll find the file. What I'm going to do is just talk you through what this script actually does. So in the beginning here, we define the interpreter to use. So in this case, it's called bash, and that's what will then be used to run these commands. Then we use a utility called yum. Yum is used to update and install packages on Linux. And so in this case, what we're doing, a yum update -y basically means just update all the packages. It's like doing a software update. We're then going to run yum install. So it's going to install a utility. And in this case, that's HTTPD, which is the Apache web server. So basically, it's an open source web server. We then run a command called systemctl, and that's going to start the web server and then enable it in order to make sure that it keeps starting when we reboot the system. What we're then going to do is we want to create our own web page. Very, very simple web page. What we're going to do is change to a directory called var www.html, and that's where we create our document. So we're then going to run the echo command, and we're going to echo some text. You can change this to whatever you want. And that's going to go into a file. So it's going to write the text here into this file. And index.html is the default web page for an Apache web server. So when we run our web server, or when we connect to our web server, we should see this text on the screen. And that will prove that it worked. So how do we go about running this code on our instance at launch time? Well, it's very simple. We're just going to highlight the code, click on copy, come back to EC2, and we're going to launch an instance. And I want you to scroll down until you find Amazon Linux 2 AMI. Click on select. We'll keep the default for the T2 micro, so the free tier eligible instance type. Click on next. And then if we just scroll down here, we can see we have this box with user data written next to it. So this is where we can actually put our information. So I literally just paste it all in. Make sure you've got everything, including that very first line. We'll click on next, next again. Choose next to configure our security group, and we're going to select our security group. Now, I do want to use the same security group. What I'll need to do though is add a rule to it. Now, you can't do that here, but we will need to do that. So at the moment, our security group has the SSH protocol being allowed on port 22 from anywhere. But we need to add port 80 from anywhere because this is a web server that we're actually launching on our instance. So let's go through to review and launch, launch, and now we can select an existing key pair. So we've already got a key pair here, and I'm going to launch instances. So that's going to be configured, and that will just take a few minutes to launch. In the meantime, let's go to security groups, and we need to add an additional rule. So I'll select the security group I want to edit. That's my web access security group. And under inbound rules, we're going to click edit inbound rules. We click add, and then for some protocols, you can just type in or select from the list, and you can find HTTP is a well-known protocol. So it's already there, and it knows that port 80 is the default port for HTTP. So now you can choose to use this little box here. You can configure anywhere, and what it will do is it will add a rule for IP version 4, so that's the source address for anywhere, and then it will add one for IPv6 as well. Alternatively, you can just type in 0.0.0.0/0. So all I need to do now is click on Save Rules, and we can see under Inbound Rules now, we have 2 new rules added, one for IPv6 and one for IPv4. We only need the IPv4 one for this particular lab because we're not using IPv6, but there's no harm in having it there at this stage. So there we go, we have our rule. Let's head back to instances, and this is saying it's running. Now we can click on refresh, but it should be pretty up to date. You can also have a look on status checks and see what stage of initialization we're at. Now it still says it's initializing, but I suspect it might be ready by now. So you can either wait until that's all complete, or you can just go and get either the public DNS address or the public IP address. I'm going to just take the public IP address to my clipboard and then open a new tab, and we're going to enter that address in and hit enter. And there we go. We've got, this is a test page running on Apache on EC2 in the AWS cloud. So that was the text that we put into our user data. So it's a very simple exercise, but it's just to show you that what we've done is we've launched a web server on AWS, and we've configured a page for that web server, and we've put our own text in there. Of course, you could put whatever you wanted in there. You could create a nice HTML page if you want to. But this was just a simple exercise to show you how to use user data to configure your instance. Now that's it for this lab, but what I'm going to do is leave the instance running because in the next lesson we're going to actually use this EC2 instance again.